We got interesting news, boys. I got release dates for you, not only for the upcoming 12.0.7 patch, but also 12.1. Also, the easiest way to unlock that new 3400 achievement. That's right, 3400 rating on your Mythic Plus. What's the easiest way? Which dungeons should you be doing and how you should be doing them? So let's get into this here. First off, speaking of dungeons, all you dungeon pros out there, the Mythic Dungeon International Invitational is coming back. That's right. Speedrunning is back in season. And this time around, there will be $300,000 awarded to the winners. $100,000 before that for a total of, what is this, $400,000 if my math is correct here, coming out of this achievement, this group here. So nice stuff. You know, a few rewards to be handed out for those people who are competing in this thing. Group A kicks off on May 8th. Group B, May 15th. And then Group C on May 22nd. Group China is also here for May 29th. So, yeah, sign up if you still want to. I think they're still taking it. You got to fill out a form for co-streaming, a bunch of other shit. If you're into this stuff, you can go ahead and check it out on Warcraft Twitch channel or YouTube. This thing will be starting at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time on the dates that I mentioned earlier. So, April 15th as the trials kicking off. So, if you're interested, go ahead and do that. I used to do this kind of shit in my previous life, but like I said before, you know, my gladiator days and everything, those are far behind me. But you know what else isn't behind me? The new patches. That's right. Those are just ahead. And boys, we have 12.1 build testing on the encrypted servers. That's right. So Blizzard's they already got 12.0.7 locked in. There's going to be no bugs, no problems. We're testing 12.1 now, boys. So that's what it is. We have a 12.1, as I said before, showing up on the encrypted vendor servers, which means Blizzard's going to get ready to start adding shit in here before they start testing it internally. And interestingly enough, we can now start to figure out some of the release dates for this shit based on the current holiday calendar in the game. So let's look at this stuff real quick. With patch 12.0.7 officially on the PTR, we can get a good look at the upcoming calendar on the PTR servers and line up the holidays with where things are going to drop currently. So we know Turbulent Timeways is returning, as is the Midsummer Festival and the new Darkspear Dash event. Those things are all happening during the 12.0.7 patch. So if you look at when the actual Turbulent Timeways kicks off, it's actually 8 weeks after the release of 12.0.5, interestingly enough, which is your typical patch cadence right now in World of Warcraft. So what date does that mark us at? Well, that'll put us at June 16th, boys. That's right. And if you look at the current, calendar here, 12.0.7 is supposed to launch end of spring. Typically summer's, summer solstice or the official beginning of summer here in America and everywhere else on this side of the world is June 21st. Around June 21st is the official kickoff of summer. So if 12.0.7 is going to launch, has to be before that. But close to it, well, I think June 16th fits that perfectly. So it looks like June 16th is going to be the launch date for 12.0.7. That puts us at a pretty good pace here, as I said before. 8 weeks of patch before the next one comes out. Now, if we continue to push this forward, now that we know, obviously, working with Turbulent Timeways, right? What's probably more curious here is that the end date of Turbulent Timeways is August 25th. Okay, so Turbulent Timeways is going to be a bit longer this time. We got 10 weeks of Turbulent Timeways. We're adding Dragonflight in there as well. That gives us 1 week per expansion, 10 weeks in total with the new Dragonflight one. So major patch launches and everything else with Turbulent Timeways. So the natural conclusion is 12.1 would release on August 25th if we finish out the entire Turbulent Timeways, putting us right here, summertime, as is expected with the roadmap here. And that would mean Season 2 would officially kick off on September 1st, giving us about 2 weeks before the official launch of BlizzCon and everything else. So that makes sense, actually. If you're talking about a season kicking off, working through the bugs and everything else that could happen with that, yeah, 2 weeks before BlizzCon launching, getting your season going, that seems pretty accurate. Now, a 10-week patch, yeah, that's a bit longer than the 8 weeks that we've seen. But recently, I mean, for 12.0.5 to launch, we actually only had 7 weeks in that first patch, before the midnight patch launch, before that one hit. So we're not exactly working with always 8 weeks here, but right now it seems to work out that Turbulent Timeways really does hit the launch of 12.0.7, as I said before, giving us a June 16th launch for that. And then as Turbulent Timeways ends, that would mean 12.1 would hit on August 25th. Those dates aren't too bad. Looks like we'll be getting a lot of shit to do in the summer. Blizzard is as a buggy as a jungle at this point. Look, Could they have waited an extra week to launch 12.0.5 and made sure it was ready to go? Yeah, they could have. But it seems like they're working through this shit. Maybe they're coming up with better processes, hopefully, to launch less buggy. But right now, those are the dates that we seem to be working with. So we'll see if that continues on going forward. Now, we do know that we're getting a new raid, right, in 12.0.7. And we were just talking about how this stuff's going to be warbound equipped and everything else. Well, Blizzard did a whoop-de-doo flip on us, okay? Little finger pop, just kidding, I'm your friend, but I'm not gay, but I'm gay kind of shit going on here. So here's what happened. Blizzard recently updated the PTR. The gear is no longer warbound, but it is spore fused. So this is a weird thing here they're doing. What this means is this raid, this single boss raid, will be dropping the highest item level gear in the entire expansion so far. So right now, right, you got Void Spire, you got March on Quel'Danas, all that shit dropping the Mythic gear that it does. This gear will be dropping 9 item levels higher than current Myth 6 of 6 track. So, and it's not going to be upgradable. They're calling it a spore fused gear, and it's going to be 9 item levels higher than any Myth track gear you can currently get without upgradability. So here's the current item levels that this raid will be dropping item levels at. On Mythic, we'll be getting 298 gear. Heroic will be dropping 285. Normal will be dropping 272, and LFR will be dropping 259. So across the board, this is the highest item level we can get in any of these current difficulties. And as I said before, it's being called Spore Fused Myth, and it is not upgradable. So that's how this thing will work. Interesting way that they're doing this stuff. I don't know how it's going to work out. What obviously it's going to be a place where we get some best in slot items, probably some trinkets, some other things like that. But right now, this is how it's going to work. Is this thing's going to be dropping the highest item level in the game, so this is going to become very much a required raid for everybody in the game going forward. Unlocking Heroic World Tier is also going to be a thing, and we know how to do it now. Unlocking the Heroic World Tier by gathering a group to defeat the base's World Boss Nexus Captain Lethier. So, by defeating the World Boss, you will unlock the ability to enter into a heroic version of the world map. Okay, this heroic version of the world will just be basically managed to Najatal, which is one of the new zones that we'll be getting in this game in 12.0.7. So you will be able to venture out into a heroic version of this. If you played Legion Remix, you've done kind of the world tier stuff already. That's what this is. They're bringing it into retail. So this is the kind of their first trial of heroic world tier. Unlock it by killing the world boss. You do a quest or whatever, and then you have the access to this new heroic world tier, which will, I guess, be giving us more difficult mobs, some kind of affix shit maybe going on in that world, and then obviously it's going to be giving you higher item level for stuff that you do while the heroic world tier is active. So there you go. That's going to be a nice thing for people too. So mid-season gear boost up. Maybe. I don't even know what heroic world tier is going to drop. Yeah, you're talking about the raid probably. Yeah, basically a mid-season gear boost up for sure. That's what that's looking like. Okay. Speaking of boosting, man, these transitions today, unbelievable. 3,400 rating. How are you going to boost your rating up to 3,400? Well, your boy Samiccus has some advice. That's right. As a Mythic Plus champion, a Mythic Plus, usually I'll gear that 1 week. I'll be unlocking all the shit that's possible, Mythic Plus. But this is how I'm telling everybody else to do it, and this is how you should be doing it. We're going to look right now at the current difficulty of Mythic Dungeons. What's the easiest to complete, and how you should maybe manage this 3,400 rating. So looking right now, we have our obvious, tier list of dungeons. What's the easiest dungeon? What's the hardest? Right now, your S-tier dungeons are Skyreach and Magister's Terrace. Your A-tier is Pit of Sauron. Your B-tier is Windrunner Spire. For C-tier, we have Seat of the Triumphant, Myasara Caverns, and Nexus Point Xanax. And then for D-tier, we have Algathar Academy, the shit of the shit. People just not being able to complete this one at a typical rate like the other ones. So right now, the way we're going to look at this is you got to consider you essentially need a plus 16 timed on every single one of these dungeons to hit that 3,400 rating. Or you could manage a plus 17 maybe on 2 of these, and then a plus 15 on another 2, and then 16s in the middle, basically to even out to that 3,400 rating. Essentially, wherever you get a 15 on, you're going to have to manage a 17 somewhere else to pull that rating up. So that's how this is all going to work. Now, which dungeons should you be running? Which ones should you be timing to try to get to that rating as high as you can? Well, right now, as I said before, we're looking at just completion rate and the most run dungeons in the game. Pit of Sauron is the most run dungeon in the game. Well, actually, Skyreach is the highest completion rate dungeon in the game. At 87%, Skyreach gets the most time keys in the game. Pit of Sauron not too far behind at 86%, but that's not even third place. Magister's Terrace is actually at 87.2%. They are just a 0.1% behind Skyreach in terms of completion rate. So looking at that, obviously, the higher the completion rate, that typically means the easier the dungeon is. Now, these completion rates that I'm giving you right now are Mythic plus 15 and higher. So these are high-end keys that people are running here. These are the ones that people are pushing the highest right now. And yes, of those highest keys, Skyreach clearly getting cleared the most, followed by, I should say, getting cleared the easiest. Pit of Sauron getting cleared the most, and then follow that up with Magister's Terrace at the second easiest clear rate right now. So with these numbers in mind, let's look at right here. So as I went through this, Nexus Point Xanax is actually the least popular run dungeon, but Pit of Sauron, as I said before, with 148 is the most run dungeon. Algathar Academy is your least completed, okay? 78.3%. That is the lowest completion rate at plus 15 or higher. Clearly the hardest dungeon that we're seeing this season. Now, looking at this chart, the way this thing breaks down, the bigger the square, okay, or I should say rectangle, the wider the range of completions. This is actually how people time and how close they're getting to not timing it. So that also gets into how difficult some of these keys are. We see the 0% right here, right? This means that you timed it if you're above this line right here. So leaving with 5% more left on the timer, 10% more, this is what these numbers mean. You got to remember too, I just showed you guys completion rate numbers. The thing is about these completion rates is everything's above 50%. Obviously, the lowest one's sitting at 78%. So the majority of these dungeons are still getting completed, as we see one of probably the easiest Mythic Plus seasons we've had in quite a while. But you want to see kind of the range to understand as you're grouping up with these random groups, what are the odds that going to be that you actually clear this shit? So looking right now at this chart, what does it all mean? Well, with Skyreach and Magister's Terrace, they skew more to the positive side than other dungeons, meaning the majority of the players that are comfortably completing these timers and these dungeons without too much stress. Additionally, Magister's Terrace has a slightly less variance than Skyreach, evidenced by the smaller whisker lines coming out of the squares there. Algathar Academy has the smallest whiskers. They're the closest to 0% in terms of completion rate, which means they're the closest in breaking the keys oftentimes. And the majority of players timing these keys are very close to not timing them. That's what this little box here means, is everybody's pretty close to not timing these when they do run them, even if they do time them. Pit of Sauron, or Saren, has the largest whiskers, meaning that there's a most variance here. High variance, you know, different groups depending on what those group makeups are, how the skill of the players. There's a wide range of completion rates in terms of the amount of time left on the key for these things. And then finally, looking at Nexus Point Xanax, it has smaller whiskers, which means there's less variance, which means the majority of people who are running this thing are about hitting the same clip in terms of timing this and how much time is left in the timer. So looking at all these runs, right, and what I said before, probably the best way to do this is to actually get your, Algathar Academy, get it out of the way to like a plus 15 just to get that thing completed, and then maybe go for a Skyreach or Magister's Terrace or Pit of Sauron at a higher 17 key. Get one of those for every 117 you get out of these. You can time a 15 at one of these lower ones like a Nexus Point Xanax or an Algathar Academy. Obviously, everything in the middle, you're going to need to hit a 16 on them to be able to actually hit this 34 rating, but the math's going to math at the end of the day. Every time you do a 17 means you can do a 15 somewhere else, and that's probably the best way to do this to actually hit that 3,400 rating. Will your boy be getting the 3,400? We'll see if I decide to do it. It's really up to me. If I decide to do it, I'm going to do it. If I don't, then I'm probably not. But besides that, the only other piece of news here is for all you classic Andes out there, if you want 50% off your Burning Crusade anniversary packs, you want to rebuy a shit that's already been out before, there you go. You can now do it. That stuff's on sale, name changes and everything else as well. And for today, that is all in terms of news.